Hey guys, so I'm down at the creek today, and it is beautiful out. It hasn't rained for a while. The sun is out. Creek's going good, so uh, it's just a beautiful day. I want to talk a little bit about knife safety, not an all-encompassing type talk, but more about the things that I carry and my thought processes whenever I'm using, especially large chopping knives. Mal's very excited. She's getting to run around the woods, so you probably see her bounce around. Okay, go. Oh, good lord. Oh, go on, down. What? Lord. Okay, go. We don't have a yard at our house, so whenever I come out to places like this where nobody's around, I cut her loose, and this is her fun time. All right, so one thing that I have learned over my career as being a firefighter, accidents happen, and you cannot completely prevent them. It's just it's just a fact. It's just something that's going to be. We try to minimize it as much as we can, and which is good. That's smart, but you're never going to get rid of them. So, coming from that aspect and looking at as bushcrafters using big chopping knives and things like that, um, what we need to do is, or what I try to do is minimize the risk and be prepared when something does actually happen. The worst I've ever been cut was not while I was chopping with a big blade or doing something that I shouldn't have been. I was actually putting a kukri back in the sheath, and I lost my concentration for half a second. I was talking with my wife as I'm putting the knife back in the sheath, and it wasn't the knife hand that slipped. The leather sheath grabbed around the blade, and my sheath hand slipped and went forward and cut here and here. And 15 stitches later, I learned my lesson. And that was just about a second of just inattention. I hadn't even thought about the possibility that my hand would slip off the sheath. So, anyway, point of the matter is, since we know accidents do and will happen, how do we minimize the damage that occurs? First off, got the little bag, medical kit. Um, it's either for you or someone with you. Now, because I'm out in public, stuff like that, I always, and I'm trained in CPR, I carry a mask one way. But the most important thing for us as bushcrafters, I think, tourniquet. And this is one of those things that it's just better to buy the name brand top of the line to start off with. If you guys remember in another video, I had come across one through the Red Cross here in Costa Rica. And I thought, oh, it'll be good. As soon as I twisted it around my leg, it snapped in half. If that had been a real world scenario, I would have just bled out. So, tourniquet, very important. The other thing I carry, Israeli bandage. Um, these things are awesome compression bandages, and they've seen a lot of real world use. You can see tons of videos on YouTube on how to use an Israeli bandage or on how to use a tourniquet. And then what mostly gets used, thank God, band-aids, gauze, tape, um, just for small stuff, smaller cuts that don't require stitches, don't require anything like a tourniquet, the everyday nicks that you get. I carry this stuff with me in my EDC because it might not be me who gets hurt, but it could be somebody else around me. So anyway, these are just thoughts, ways of thinking ahead of time. Uh, right now, what I want to get into is the things that go through my head whenever I'm about ready to harvest. What you see here is Indian cane. That's that straight little tree. There's two or three of them right through there. It's actually an invasive species here in Costa Rica. They use it for marking plots and fences. All right, got an old nasty limb right there. Get that out. Get that out of the way. Clear out the small brush. I'm going to take this little tree out first. All right, over there. This is the one I want. I have no idea what that is. Yeah. So I've cleared out the space around the limb, around the tree. I think the best way to explain this is just for you guys to see the same view that I'm having. First off, we're going to look at the ground here, figure out where we can put our feet safely. I've already cleared out a limb that was dangling off of this tree. We'll clear up on top, and I've also taken care of a small limb that was down there that came across the tree that I want. So we're going to walk over here. I've got my left foot forward and my right foot slightly back. Right here is the tree that we want. And the reason why I'm coming from with my left foot forward is if I go through, while I'm chopping the tree, if I accidentally go through it, which has happened before, I don't want anything over here that could get cut. Okay? So I'm going to take, with this, probably 1 or 2 shots here, and then follow up with 1 shot here, because all this is clear. My body's out of the way, and I don't have to worry about an overshot or something coming through and cutting me. Look at what you're about to cut. Make sure nothing above you is going to fall on you whenever you separate that trunk. Okay? All right. Take the knife out of the sheath. And for this, I'll aim right about there. Here we go. Okay, so that went through really good. I'm going to just take another shot from this angle here. We'll let the weight carry the rest. Awesome. I've got the end of the stick right here. the Indian cane. I want to cut this off into sections. So whenever I do this, I'm going to be watching to make sure that nothing below, like my leg, is in the way. I'm going to make sure nothing's around me that this knife's going to run into. Okay? Everything's clear. Chopping the safe direction. Go one chop here. And I just did a snap, but pretty much it went all the way through. Okay, this is another cut. I've just moved my leg forward, so this is off to my left. I'm going to hit the back of this because it's a safe direction. And there you go. Grab, place your foot, take a shot, turn, one more shot. Okay, so you want to clear off leaves and vines and things like that. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to do that. So there's no reason to do some big old huge chop. Run the knife right along the edge of the bark. Comes off clean. Pick your spot. Everything's clear. Turn over. This is too close to my hand to want to chop here. So just run the blade right down the trunk. You're in control, so make sure you make the space that you need to do it safely. I'm pretty sure this is going to go right through. So I'm going to step back, hold up. Yeah, it did. All right, so all the pieces are over there. I'm going to put the knife back in the sheath. And one of the nice things about the Woodsman, it's got that lock, so I don't have to worry about it coming out. So you see that vine? Sometimes you get stuck in an area where you're having to trim vines and things like that out of your way, which is pretty easy with machete. It's also fine to do with your chopper. The thing to keep in mind when you're chopping something like this with a bigger knife, you don't need a whole lot of power. A nice little rotation is probably all you're going to need. So instead of making big swings, wearing yourself out and taking a chance of hitting something you don't want to, little snap, just like that. It also works with the little bitty fibrous stuff like this, just little, and it's out of your way. It doesn't take much energy at all. So this is that triangle of death, because basically you've got artery there, and you don't want to cut those. So whenever you're sitting, you're trimming on something, one thing I always try to keep in mind is I don't have the blade over this section, especially with bigger knives. A small knife falling from this height to here could cut. A big knife probably will cut. So, you're dealing with 26 ounces. Now, my suggestion is to, at any time when you're cutting, never put yourself in a situation where you don't feel comfortable. And I'm not talking about skill level. What I'm talking about is physical comfort, where you don't feel like you're in control of what you're doing. Um, if you're leaning too far forward to try to get a cut a certain way, if you're not, if you're cramped up doing things too close, that can lead to accidents. So, very important, get in a comfortable position, a safe position, and then do your cutting from there. So, like with this, I'm not going to cut like that. It's a bad idea. But I can lean forward nice and comfortably, and I can do push cuts all day long. Um, I am a fan of not putting too much pressure on the blade. You'll see guys, and they'll, even though they're outside of that danger zone, they'll put a bunch of pressure trying to cut through something. They'll really stack it up. In my mind, that pressure is like a little gauge. And once you get it up so high, if this breaks free, you cannot control this. So for me, what I try to do is avoid that altogether. Comfortable, safe, and I'll do little push cuts like that. See, right here, I'm in complete control. The knife can't go flying out and hit something that I don't want it to. Another thing that I am a fan of, because I like to carve with larger knives. Close to the handle, right there, I've got decent control. However, the farther out I go from this pivot point, the more the pressure can stack up on me and it can get away from me. So one thing I will do, put the handle on my leg when I'm doing carving, like that. You guys can see. From here, not much can happen. I've got the blade in my hand. The weight is resting on my leg. And I'm basically putting the last inch, inch and a half of the blade to use. So that's another way of handling a larger knife. Rest the weight on your leg, choke up and carve. No one wants to put a chink or a nick in their freshly sharpened blade. And I don't care how tough the blade is, rocks are tougher. So you always want to have a good backup, a good backing to whatever you're chopping through. This is an old log. I'm going to make sure it's steady. Yeah. Knock it down there nice and tight. I can cut through the material I want to work with, hit that, and my edge is safe. Also, I don't have to worry about the blade coming through and getting hold of one of my legs. My feet are back, so I don't have to worry about anything if the knife goes through. This has got my edge covered, so I don't have to worry about nicking that, and we can just chop in. Let's say I've got to go through this stick. Come at an angle, come at another angle, and I can hit that pretty hard because I know I've got backing. It's one of the carving moves that I never enjoy doing, but sometimes it's necessary. First thing we're going to do is flatten this out. And then we're going to drill a hole. So what I do on drilling a hole, because to me, it's a dangerous move. It's something that can get away from you if you're not careful. I put my finger through the little loop in the back, and I hold the end of the knife. Put this on something safe and make sure that everything, my legs and everything, are out of the way. And I use mostly just the weight of the blade. One way for a little while, turn it around, go the other way. The knife can't, if the knife slips out, it's still attached. And nothing that I got's important is in the way, so I can just let the weight of the knife go through. Okay, we're halfway through there. Switch over. That side, and we're through. And you guys can see it right there. That's a safest way that I know of. And you guys can probably tell I'm not putting my full strength in on that. There's no need to. Hitting stuff full strength makes me very nervous. And one of the things I was wanting to show, let's say that you want to split this stick, okay? Now, there's two ways to go about that. One, put the edge of the knife right there, take a baton, hit the top, and split it on through. Another thing you can do is lift up nice and gentle and just set the blade, all right? See how I'm moving my hand? It's just enough to set the blade. I'm not putting any pressure on it. This is just the weight of the blade. Now you can also do that. But once the stick is stuck in that blade, just beat it down. And you can tell I'm not hitting hard. Matter of fact, I was able to stop that halfway down as soon as the split happened. No excess energy needed, nothing dangerous about it. And you split the stick. Understand the knife that you're using. Get comfortable with it. Like with this knife, with the Woodsman, I have a saw teeth on the back. Now to use that, I grab like this. However, there's no real big finger guard here. So to keep my hand safe, I run my finger through the cord right there and then grab the handle like that. That way this hand cannot physically slide forward onto that edge. Okay, that's about to give. There we go. All right, another way of batoning, more traditional way. Get the stick, I put it on top of the log, and then with my strong hand, my knife hand, put the edge right down the center or wherever you want to split it. Grab another stick. There's usually a strike zone on most knives. This is where on the Woodsman is located. And you notice when I got down towards the bottom, it was splitting. There was no reason to hit it hard. Nice and easy. So we were talking about how you have to look up and look all around whenever you're chopping, cutting stuff. And a really good example is right here. Let's say you want to harvest this tree right here. The only problem is about 7 feet up, it's split. And that branch is going all the way over into this other tree. It's not that you can't harvest that, but you need to be aware that whenever you chop through it, it's got pressure stacked on it. And that pressure is going to have to go somewhere. So your environment itself is something you want to take note of. Is it raining? Is it are you sweating a lot? Uh, is your handle getting slick? Um, what kind of terrain are you on top of? Is it muddy? Or do you have slick rocks like this? These are all things to just think about whenever you're working out there in the woods, and to keep in mind, just for safety, and so that because nobody wants to get hurt. That just that's just no fun all around. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for coming out with me today. It's really nice. I hope the information I showed you will be of some use. Uh, you know, there's a lot of different ways to accomplish the task. The main thing, especially when you're dealing with stuff like this, is just do it as safe as you can for yourself and the other people around you. Anyway, I'm going to head back up the creek. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and God bless.